So last class, we found the area of a triangle when the base and the height was given. So are the base and height given on this one? No. We could say a base is, but the height is not. So we're going to draw a height. We're going to draw a height in there. And so that height needs to have either this 13 as our base or the 8 as the base. And then the right triangle that we make has to have this angle that's listed here in it. So it makes sense just to draw our right triangle right here, doesn't it? So how might we find what the height is? We'll call that x. What are we doing this unit? What is this? What's the name of this whole unit? Trigonometry. So we're going to do some trigonometry to find it. So what trigonometry would we do to find that? So the 47 degrees is our angle. What is the x in relationship to the 47 degrees? It's opposite. So let me just draw what triangle we're looking at. We're looking at this right triangle. We are ignoring right now the rest of that. We're only finding this x from this right triangle. Does that make sense? So we have 8 is what in relationship to the angle? Hypotenuse. And the x is the opposite. Okay, so we're going to do sine, right? So we're going to do sine of 47 degrees, opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite from that is going to be x, and then the hypotenuse will be 8. Does that make sense so far? So what do we do to find x? Yep, multiply both sides by 8. Blue. So multiply by 8, multiply by 8, and then we have x is equal to 8 times sine 47 degrees. So when we find that 8 times sine of 47 degrees, our answer needs to be the nearest tenth, but this is not our answer. We want to find the area. So we're going to use this to find the area. So when we find that 8 times sine 47, we have to carry it out more than the 10th place. So I'm just going to carry it out 4 places. You can just leave it on your calculator and use your answer if you want. The problem is with just when we're multiplying, if you even just do 2 places, sometimes that's not quite enough to get the right answer to the nearest tenth. So now when we're finding our area, what's the formula for the area of a triangle? 1/2 base times height. So our base is what in the triangle? It's 13. And we found the height to be 5.8508. Do this lower. And we get 38.0 to the nearest tenth. And this is kilometers. So it would be kilometers squared. That makes sense? So this is why we did some review of finding the area of a triangle yesterday. Okay, let's do number 2. So I can use either this side that's given as my base, or I can use this side that's given as my base. I can't use this side. I mean, I could, I would just have to find a lot more pieces of information. I want to find the least amount possible. So let's use this side here as your base and then draw a right angle. Does that make sense? Why I chose that? So I have to be able to have this 55-degree angle there, and then one of these two has to be the side of my new right triangle, and it is. So I have the 11 and the 55. Okay, so here's my person. I need to find this side here. What is this in relation to 55? Opposite. And what is the 11 in relation to the 55? It's the hypotenuse. It's hard when you're looking at it kind of sideways like that. It's actually the hypotenuse right across from the right angle. Does that make sense? Yeah. I know I did the same thing earlier today. So we want to find out what this x is. So that's going to be opposite and hypotenuse, which is sine. We're going to find the sine of 55 equals x, the opposite, over the hypotenuse 11. And then somebody over here in this group, what would we do next to solve it? Yep. So we get 11 sine 55 equals x. And that's 9.0107. Again, I'm just carrying it out further than the 10th place because I want the answer to make sure that we have that answer to the nearest 10th. You have to round it past the nearest 10th. So now I need to find my area of my triangle, which is half times base times height. And Allie, what would my base be? Good, 14.7. And then my height is, we found to be 9.0107. We get about 66.2 to the nearest 10th, and that's miles squared. Okay, I'm going to have you do number 3 as a U try. So do this one on your own, and then we'll do the last one after that. That one we talked about your name not being on the list. That was just my guess. You can ask. Is there a JV in the varsity?
Yeah.
Okay, so only varsity today is shown. So it might be that JV's in the meet. Yeah. Pardon me? Oh, yeah. Oh, you might have, but you have to have a certain GPA too to get on there, and you may not. Yeah. But I don't know. You can talk to your coach about that. Yeah. Is this on here already, or did you put that? Oh, that's yours. That's yours. Oh. Can you do the U try? Yep. Perfect. Great. That's so funny. How about we? So can you get started on the, you try, or are you just doing it on your desk? Nice job. Yeah. Yep. Okay, there's a problem up there. Any questions on that? 58.9 square meters is your answer. Everyone I checked had it. Okay, the next example. So what's one difference between Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, do you think? It wasn't, yeah. So it's really a lot of Algebra 1, but with more steps. So this next example is going to have more steps than this one. So again, we need to find the area. Depth times base times height. Do we have the base and the height on this one? Do we have the base and the height? No, we have part of the base, and we need this, and we need this to get the area of the triangle. So we've got to find both of those this time. So on this one here, just making it easier for you, and I'm saying that these intermediate values that you find, we're going to round them to the nearest tenth on this one, just to make it a little easier, because we're going to have several steps on this one. So let's find this one first. Why might we want to find that one first? That's right. So we've got the opposite from the angle here. Here's our person. This would be the opposite, and this would be the adjacent. Over here, if we look at this triangle, we don't have anything except for that angle. So we need to have two parts to be able to solve it. Two sides or an angle and a side. So we're going to use what trig function with opposite and adjacent? Tangent. So tangent of 65 is the opposite x over the adjacent 29. And what do we do to solve that? Jack, what do we do to solve that? That's right. And so we get 29 times tan 65 is x. And again, we on this one, this is mathematically not correct, but we're just doing this to make it easier so that you don't have to keep carrying out a bunch of numbers. So we're going to round this to the nearest tenth. That's what the directions say you can do. And that's in order to match the ones on the answer key. So now we found this here. This is 62.2. And we want to find this measure here. So we'll call this y. And then here is our person now for this triangle. And Frankie, what is the y in relationship to the 48? Is y adjacent, opposite, or hypotenuse? Adjacent, that's right. And what about the x, or the 62.2? Yep. So we have opposite and adjacent, which is going to be what trig function? Tangent again. So we have tangent of 48 equals the opposite, which is 62.2 over the adjacent, which is y. So what would we need to do next to solve for? Multiply by y. And then we get y times the tangent of 48 equals 62.2. And then what's our last step? Yep. Divide by tangent 48. And we get y is well, that's about 69.1, rounded to the nearest tenth. And so we're not done. We now need to find the area. So it's 1/2. And then how do we find our base on this one? Yeah, add both of them. So it is, we found that this one was 69.1 plus 29. And then the base we found to be 62.2. Oh, I put the wrong number there. Sorry, didn't I? I did multiplication. Sorry about that. Thank you. 62.2 divided by tan 48 is 56.0. Thank you. So 56.0 is what this one is. And so we have 56 plus 29 times 62.2. And we get a big number, 2643.5. We don't have any units there. So if you leave them off, I'm okay with that, or you can put units squared. Questions on that? Uh-huh.